Welcome to the third installment of the Great Animal Escape series. This episode is about birds. You'd actually think that animals that can fly, mostly, would get away from zoos far more frequently than they do. Birds are often kept in enclosed areas to prevent them from flying away. Often, though, escaped birds will return on their own because the parts of the world they're in are so foreign, the birds find it easier to deal with zoo habitats. Some zoos will clip the wings of birds to prevent them from flying. The process is apparently painless, but it still seems kind of rude to me. If you painlessly took away my ability to drive, I'd be annoyed. Often in these stories, though, either the birds couldn't fly to begin with, or the zoos chose not to or forgot to clip the animal's wings. On July 4th, 2005, two flamingos escaped from their habitat in the Sedgwick County Zoo in Wichita, Kansas, USA after storm damage. One of the flamingos was never seen again. The other, referred to as Flamingo 492 because of its leg band, eventually made its way down to the Gulf of Mexico. The bird has been spotted in Texas multiple times over the last 2 decades. The bird, dubbed Pink Floyd by observers in Texas, was confirmed to be the escaped flamingo by its now worn leg band. There are no native flamingos in Texas, so it's likely every sighting of a flamingo in the area is Floyd. Floyd was spotted for some time with a Caribbean flamingo that may have been blown off course due to a tropical storm. The two are not of the same species, although I don't know if they were similar enough to produce flaminglets. Currently, there have been no sightings of a flamingo family, and the Caribbean flamingo hasn't been spotted since 2013, so it's unlikely Floyd started himself a flamboyance. And yes, flaminglet is the actual word for a baby flamingo, and flamboyance is the word for a group of them. I don't know who made the call to dub a group of flamingos a flamboyance, but get that person some kind of award. If ever there was a group of birds that deserve that title, it's the flamingo. The Sedgwick County Zoo has decided not to try to retrieve Floyd due to how much trying to catch him would disrupt local wildlife, and the fact that Floyd seems to be doing fine on his own. Flamingos in the wild can live to be up to 40 years old, and Floyd is around 30 years old, so there might be another 5 to 10 years of Pink Floyd on the Texas Gulf Coast. The bird, not the band, obviously. A golden eagle named Goldie escaped from the Regent Park Zoo in London, England on February 28, 1965, while his cage was being cleaned. He stayed on the run for several days. He was mostly spotted flying around the zoo, but he did do a little sightseeing. He was once spotted on Tottenham Court Road, about 2 miles or 3.2 kilometers away. The attempts to recapture the bird created quite the spectacle. Crowds gathered to watch zookeepers, police, and firemen try to recapture the raptor. Even a reporter for the BBC got roped into the effort. They even consulted the British Navy about getting net guns to fire at the bird. Of course, with a hungry eagle running around unchecked, small prey animals were being attacked semi-regularly. At one point, Goldie was spotted eating a local duck on the property of the U.S. ambassador to England. Neither being a British citizen nor afraid of creating an international incident, the hungry eagle saw the duck and was like, free meal. A couple of Cairn Terriers were also attacked by the eagle, but humans managed to scare the bird off. Goldie was enough of a celebrity that 5,000 people showed up and clogged traffic around Regent Park to see the bird. Goldie was eventually lured to the ground by a zookeeper using a dead rabbit. The zookeeper somehow managed to grab the bird by hand and got him back in his cage. That was until 10 months later, when Goldie escaped for a second time, this time staying free for 4 days. I teased in the last video about there being a lightning round for this one. And what type of bird escapes often enough to warrant a lightning round? The powerful ostrich? The cassowary, which is basically the devil's dinosaur. Some bird that can, actually fly. It's actually none of these. The answer is the penguin. That's right, the penguin. The flightless, waddling, exquisitely dressed seabirds have managed to escape significantly more than you'd probably think. Usually this is due to zoo flooding. Penguins, whose best method of mobility is water, see all the extra water and are like, hey, I wonder what's outside these walls. Turns out young penguins are actually extremely curious. So, yeah, It's time for a penguin lightning round. A Humboldt penguin, designated Penguin 337, escaped from the Tokyo Sea Life Park in Tokyo, Japan, in March of 2012 after likely scaling a wall. He was not recaptured for 82 days, but appeared to have gotten enough to eat to keep his weight stable. Leona, an African penguin, escaped from her enclosure in Alvetter Munster in Munster, Germany in 2011. She decided to explore the zoo, but wound up in the lion enclosure. The lions were, fortunately, asleep, and the penguin was recaptured and returned to her exhibit unharmed. Sanyika the penguin escaped from his enclosure in the Budapest Zoo and Botanical Garden in Budapest, Hungary. The penguin, also known as Sanyi, got off zoo property but was apprehended by Hungarian police on a street near the zoo and returned. An African penguin escaped from the Salzburg Zoo in Salzburg, Austria. No one is sure how the penguin escaped, but it was found in a cornfield less than 800 meters or roughly half a mile away. A group of 5 penguins escaped their enclosure in Odense Zoo in Odense, Denmark. They did not get off zoo property, and park employees were able to track them via wet footprints the birds were leaving in the snow. Once they were cornered, they waddled back to their enclosure. And finally, a penguin escaped to the Calgary Zoo in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. It mingled with people and then was returned to its enclosure. And that will do it for the Penguin Lightning Round. If you watched part 2 of this series, you may remember the Roger Williams Park Zoo in Providence, Rhode Island, USA. In 1928, they misplaced Jocko the monkey, and much hilarity ensued. Well, relatively recently, they also misplaced a couple of different species of bird. Or, at least in one case, nature did. 2 blue-throated piping guans escaped from the zoo when a storm in May of 2024 damaged their enclosure. The birds, a father and son duo called Monster and Chip, flew off. Monster was recaptured relatively quickly, but Chip spent about a week in the trees at the zoo and the surrounding neighborhoods. A zoo employee was able to bait Chip down to the ground with blueberries. Chip was then recaptured and returned to the exhibit. One of the zoo employees said of the situation that Chip was, quote, excited about the blueberries. Both birds lost a bit of weight, but were otherwise healthy. Also, on May 8th of 2024, 3 macaws just flew off from the zoo. The 3 birds were part of an aerial bird show and decided, you know what, we can fly. Let's just see what's out there. The birds didn't go too far. They were spotted in neighborhoods next to the park, though one of the birds did pull an all-nighter. All 3 birds were back in the zoo as of the next morning. This isn't the first time this has happened either. They had also escaped the previous May, where they were spotted by school children and residents of surrounding neighborhoods. So, all of the birds really didn't go very far and were quickly recaptured. Despite escaping nearly a century ago, Jocko the monkey is still the undisputed king of having grand adventures when escaping from the Roger Williams Park Zoo. On March 26, 2024, a male ostrich named Todori escaped from a zoo called Bug City in Songnam, South Korea. Todori had lost the only other ostrich in the exhibit, a female named Tasuni, who passed away a month prior. Apparently, the bird was grieving and decided to just go for a run. The problem is, he decided to run in rush hour traffic. Now, ostriches can maintain speeds of around 34 miles per hour, or 54.7 kmh, so the bird could theoretically keep pace with or even outpace traffic if congested enough. Also, a male ostrich can weigh up to 287 pounds, or 130 kilograms, which could do significant damage to a vehicle at even half highway speeds. Not to mention the damage it would do to Todori if struck at that speed. Fortunately for Todori, and traffic, this was rush hour. Traffic wasn't exactly moving at a brisk pace. Todori was weaving in and out of traffic, and multiple people caught the escaped bird on cameras from their vehicles. Video was taken that shows Todori trying to cross 5 lanes of traffic at one point. Todori was actually struck by a delivery truck, but fortunately the strike occurred at low speed. The camera misses him being struck, but you can hear the impact. The next time Todori is on camera, He's picking himself up off the ground and continuing his run. Traffic was heavy enough that police and fire crews were able to pursue the bird on foot at times, but humans have no chance of catching the world's fastest running bird, so they had no luck. Usain Bolt, the fastest human sprinter in the entire history of opposable thumbs and language, tops out at about 27.9 miles per hour, or 44.7 kilometers per hour. That is still about 18% slower than an ostrich's average cruising speed. And Bolt was sprinting over a short distance when that mark was set. The ostrich can maintain its cruising speed over distance. Eventually, Todori made his way to a parking garage where emergency responders were able to set up a net and catch the bird. He was returned to the zoo and given a medical examination. Despite being hit by a delivery truck, Todori sustained no injuries. And now for our last story. A powerful storm known as a bomb cyclone tore through Oakland, California, USA on Tuesday, March 21st, 2023. The storm did claim 5 human fatalities, but somehow didn't wound any animals at the Oakland Zoo, despite trees being felled by the gale force winds. One of the trees sliced into the mesh of an aviary, though, releasing several birds. They were an African hooded vulture named Oliver, 2 pied crows named Diego and Deauville, and 3 superb starlings. African hooded vultures are an endangered species. None of the birds strayed too far at first. In the immediate aftermath of the storm, all of the animals stayed on park grounds. By Thursday, March 23rd, the superb starlings had returned to the enclosure on their own. Oliver and the pied crows were still on the loose. On Friday the 24th, Oliver was recaptured after spending several days in the park trees. Deauville was recovered the next day. She had left zoo grounds and was actually being chased by local birds. She landed in an Oakland resident's yard to seek cover and possibly food. The resident didn't recognize the bird species, but did recognize the leg bend on the bird and called the zoo. Zoo staff arrived within an hour, and the bird approached them quickly, but wouldn't go into the kennel they brought to transport her. They tried to tempt her with mealworms, but to no avail. They thought that maybe they could lure the bird into the resident's house and capture her there. So they asked the homeowner the following, and this is a real quote. "Hey, this is a big ask, but will you open your house and can I throw bugs into it?" They were able to successfully bait her into the house using a trail of mealworms. After a 2-hour ordeal and with the bird in an enclosed space, they were eventually able to capture her with a net and secure her. She was returned to the zoo, given a medical evaluation, and given a clean bill of health. Diego, on the other hand, may still be on the loose. None of the sources I found ever stated that he had been recaptured, but a photo of him was taken on April 5th, 2023 and put on X, formerly Twitter. He was in flight in the photo and appeared to be healthy and doing relatively well. If you're in the California Bay Area and see a black bird with a white chest, maybe let the Oakland Zoo know. They might be looking for him. And that will do it for this installment of Great Animal Escapes. I will have more installments in this series, but I'm likely not going to release the next installment as my next video. I'm going to shift gears and cover another topic. As always, if you enjoyed this video, feel free to like, subscribe, comment, or share the video. And as always, thanks for watching.